somebody else want to say, hey, what's going on?
What's up?
What up, motherfucker?
What's up,
And y'all thought I was the problem. What's up, y'all? It's Ashley.
I'm Fee.
It's Melanie.
And Cody here, and you've tapped into
The Mama's Den. Could you imagine?
Okay, all right.
Come
Hello,
on,
it's
Barbara.
Barbara Walters here.
Oh, I like your millennial Gen Z phone.
Don't you?
It's
Me and
giving.
Amir
It's
match.
giving you have a teenager.
I know, me and
I
Amir
love
match.
this.
Look,
So if you're watching us on YouTube, then you know that Ashley has a super cute phone adorned by her teenager.
what happened?
I was telling our YouTube audience, because we're recording, that you have a super cute phone adorned by your teenager.
It's cute as hell.
Thank you.
Heck,
Yeah.
it's cute as
you.
heck.
Everything can be included as long
Okay.
as you remember that we're talking to other people too.
Is that
Yeah, a long time. Yeah.
is that like you put your hand in there to?
You can, yeah.
It's like
you
a
can hold it,
wristlet?
Or is it
hold
like a
It's like
charm?
decor. It's like, let me hold my phone, and then, oops,
cute.
it didn't fall on the
That's cute.
ground.
Oh,
you know
that's
what I mean?
fire.
A moment. Yes. Or it can just be like, does my phone have waist beads now? I don't know.
Not does my phone have
Smashing you.
Okay, but Felicia, this jacket.
Yes, talk about
This
it.
is so cute.
Thank you, girl.
Okay, cropped but ready for rain.
It's giving winter in LA.
Okay,
Yes.
Which is
okay.
not really real.
Girl, it's giving
Yes.
year round in LA.
It's giving fall.
Can
in
borrow it
other
anytime.
states.
It's giving
Mama.
fall in other states.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's cute.
And it's cozy.
I love the green.
It's very cute.
You know, we
Wait,
love
can
green.
I ask, how do you like decide what to make?
Yeah.
I just will look up inspiration. I'll just look up like I've always wanted like the jacket that we just released.
Yeah. Ooh, I
that
love
jacket, it's so good. But I was like, I really want a jacket for this fall, like in this winter. And I'll just start looking stuff up.
Sorry, my pants are bunched up, and it's making me look like I have a
Is it because
fupa,
you did
and
the
I
splits?
don't. Huh?
It's because you did those splits.
That's the worst when the jeans just be.
Giving you a fupa? Yeah, but I've been working out, child. I don't got
Wait, that part. So
Never
for
knew.
those that are listening to us, not watching us on YouTube, we did a whole fit check at the beginning of this episode. So make sure that you are like rolling over to the YouTube.
For
okay?
real, because I look cute today.
You do.
You do.
And I really do like. Oh God, now I got a
This
wedgie.
is super
Jesus.
cute.
What are you?
I love these boots.
Ashley.
Thank you.
You do look cute, and I really do like this jacket a lot, though.
Thank you.
Do I have that jacket?
You do have
I
this jacket.
ordered it.
Hilarious.
I was like, wait, I have that
You
jacket.
do have this jacket.
I got the jacket.
Also, very excited for the drop.
I paid
Wait,
for it.
did I miss a drop?
You missed
did.
the drop.
Where was I?
You were, working.
When did it drop?
Mothering.
Like mid-September.
Okay, but did I? But did I? I remember you posted something about. Is it like a bomber Letterman jacket or something like that? Yeah. Boom.
Yes, and it
Okay.
says somebody's mama with butterflies.
So let me tell you something. Just recently when I was traveling, I realized that I don't have like a jacket, like a everyday, you know what denim jackets do, but
Yeah.
I'm not
Yes.
necessarily a denim jacket girl. So I was like,
I didn't know that.
no, I have like a denim oversized shirt that I like to wear, and I have like my NYX kimono type black thing, but that's more athletic. But I didn't have something that felt stylish enough, or like you could dress it up, dress it down. And then now I'm just getting a flashback to you posting that and being like, that was bomb. I need to get one of
It's
those.
really cute.
I don't have a jacket like that either.
so
now
cute.
that you say that, like an everyday cute jacket that can just go with your fits. That
Yeah.
I
I
love
have
to
a leather
layer.
jacket.
I like to layer the jackets. I feel like it's perfect for that, like a little light hoodie underneath.
Yeah.
Oh, I need. Well, do we gonna have the same matching everyday jacket?
That's fine.
Yes. 3 of them. At least.
But yeah, definitely shop somebody's mama. I can give you a. You know what? I need to give you guys a Mama's Den code.
It's
Yes.
about goddamn time. Jesus Christ.
We get a code!
You get a code.
Just
You get a
for
code.
You'll get a code. You'll get a code. You'll get a code.
Anytime y'all see us in somebody's mama stuff, we paid for
They,
it.
We
my
get-
my friends, they support me. They
we
really
have no
do.
other choice, or else we wouldn't be getting it. Because she ain't giving
She's
it
like,
away
and
for
we
free."
wait in line.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Hilarious.
Oh,
In the
man.
queue,
Appreciate
like
y'all. I appreciate y'all.
Yes. But also, like, for real, because we love it.
yeah, that's
You know
fine.
what I
The stuff
mean?
is bomb.
I get
Yeah.
stopped more for that than I do people asking me about the mama's den.
Oh.
Bring that shirt. Bring that
And
shirt.
Jared too.
Bring
Jared
that
wears
shirt.
somebody's daddy shirt. He
Chia.
wears it to all his meetings. He goes and people love it on his Zooms and everything. People are like, does your shirt say somebody's daddy? Loves it.
cute.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah,
Guess
loves
who-
it.
Guess who got Chia Jared that shirt? Did Chia get Jared that shirt?
Oh, that's funny. I think I remember hearing
No,
that.
I bought it for him.
You did? Chia got him. I thought he got him that shirt. Maybe he didn't.
Chia bought it for somebody else. I
He
remember.
bought one for him and then somebody else.
somebody else.
I thought
Yeah,
it was Jared, but maybe not.
No, I got
Oh,
Jared.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's interesting.
Well,
I love it.
okay, y'all. So listen here. Speaking of weather in LA, right? You know, being prepared for all the things. the earthquakes recently have got me a little stressed.
Really?
Really? You're not?
I'm not.
We
I
live
love
in
that for
LA.
you.
There's gonna be earthquakes.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel the same way.
It's not that serious.
Have you, okay, not to, so this is not a doom and gloom moment, but I am curious, like, how you guys are navigating the hard things. And that's from politics to, like, school shootings, but also earthquakes. But I say that because, like, I've been in here for 17 years and I keep hearing about the big one. And so then we had, like, several, I guess, medium ones recently. And I always think about the big one, like, next. So you don't think about that?
Yeah, I do think about, okay, so maybe mudslides. I remember, like, I don't know if I lived in LA yet when there was, like, that really bad one and it was, like, Oprah and everybody's houses were, like, destroyed. I do think about that, and I do think about possibly, like, one that would destroy homes. Like, you know, like, what are you gonna do if you're just walking down the street and then there's the kind that you, like, see on TV?
On TV, yeah.
Yeah, so because I've not experienced those, I guess I feel like it's like, what is the word called? Like, not dramatized. Like, I know it's a real thing, but
Yeah.
most of them are just like, then it's over. Like, nothing has even been hard enough yet for something to fall off my walls yet.
Right, but, like, it could. Like, that's what I'm always, just me? This is just me?
No, I'm with you.
Thank you, Canadian. Help me
Yeah,
out.
I'm with
Not
you.
Canadian.
I'm with you. The last one we had, which was like 5.1, I think that's the biggest one I've ever felt personally. And I was traveling that day, and it really shook me to have to, all puns intended, it shook me. I was really, like, nervous to leave. Like, I was prepared for my
Yeah.
trip, but then all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, I got to leave my kids behind, and I'm going away, and the earth shook this morning. I don't know how I feel about that. And the crazy part is that this happened a few years ago, like 2019. I went to New Orleans for Essence, and there was an earthquake. And Jared and I landed in New Orleans and found out about the earthquake. And immediately our first thing was like, do we get back home? Do we go on a plane? And the nanny at the time was like, we're fine. Like, the neighbor checked on us. We're okay. But those things are really scary. Those things, I think, to me, just the amount of, like, travel I do, my husband and I do, we separate. Even I told you guys in a recent episode that, like, I got a call, crazy telemarketer in the morning, and my first mind was like, is my husband okay? Because they're calling from New
Yeah.
Jersey and he's in
Yeah.
New York.
Yeah.
And I think that those are all the things that we're just constantly living in, like, is what crisis could happen. I don't know. I definitely feel affected by it. I also think, you know, a lot of it for me, this is not where I'm from. I'm not an
Same.
American.
Right.
So
Oh.
coming, like,
She's like, same. Wait.
growing up in another country and, like, having a different political existence, climate existence, cultural existence, all of these things feel like, do I just, what's the answer? Like, if it gets too crazy, do I just leave or what?
You
know?
should always leave, sis. You have the luxury of doing that. Get up out of here. Leave us behind.
My kids are Canadians.
Just FaceTime us in.
But,
Yeah.
like, I know people who are planning, who were hardcore planning before Biden dropped out of the race, but hardcore planning to, like, move to another country in November.
Yeah.
And now some of those same people are, like, reconsidering, but, like, that is very real.
Yeah.
What
For all the reasons.
I really, I want to move out of this country really bad.
Really?
Yes.
What are
I
your
can't do it
reasons?
right now.
Yeah.
I have to wait until the kids get older. But it's definitely something that is on my trajectory.
Where would you go?
Maybe Thailand. Y'all know I love
I was just
me
about to
some
say, I see you in,
Thailand.
like, Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Somewhere definitely in that space. But yeah, I'm planting the seed with Peace and Zen. I'm like, you guys know you can go to college anywhere. I'm like, I also want them to just eventually get up out the US.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, it's a lot going on.
What is motivating that for you?
What do you mean?
Well, because part of this for me is, like, things that scare me and how I'm responding to it versus, like, I just want to live by the beach, you know? So I'm just curious, like, is that part of it for you that, like, this country, I don't know what's going on, I don't want to be in it? Or is it just, I want a different life?
You know what? I think the driving force is capitalism, you know, and I think we're very, at least it feels to me that we're, especially living in LA, we're very disconnected from reality, you know. Obviously, us as their parents, they're able to, you know, we take them out of that. But I don't, the capitalistic part is just, I just can't get down with it, you know. And wanting to have them just really like their adult life, wanting them to be in a space that is less about that and more about like just humanity. And, you know, when I go to other countries, I notice that all the time. You know, mind you, we have, I don't want to make it seem like, oh, the U.S. sucks altogether, but there are some things that I'm like, I just don't agree with, you know? Sometimes there's just too much going on, you know? So, yeah.
Why is everyone looking at me?
Because you're quiet.
Okay. No, I think it's
I'm
this is
listening
good.
and learning.
No, this is a good way because Ashley, I think, you know, you've expressed so many times on the podcast how you guys are like a Velcro family and you guys are close. You homeschool your kids. They're, you know, everything you do is very holistic and in the home. And so how much of the outside world plays into that for you?
I don't know. I think it's different for me. You know, I always go back to how I was raised, and I think growing up like poor, I hate saying that, but you know what I mean? Like just in an inner city, I think chaos and death and despair are a regular thing. I think a lot of people who grow up privileged, which my children are, so, and honestly it's sad that like normalcy, access to healthcare is called privilege, but it is what it is. We're talking about America here. So growing up in America, privilege is being able to live like, you know, normally, healthily. So I didn't grow up in that space. So I think for me, I always have a sensible level of anxiety anyway. Like when you guys were talking about earthquakes, I'm like, I think about dying every time I get on a plane. You know what I mean? I think about dying every time I go to certain neighborhoods. Like that is a regular fear of mine, that it's like an earthquake, like natural occurrences of the earth or more, that doesn't make me as scared as like human beings make me scared, and like erratic behavior or people's circumstances or someone running up in my house, which is why I ended up getting a gun. And I know I was always anti-gun one here, but I definitely have one now because it's just the energy. Like it's a different type of energy, right? So I feel like for me, I keep my home base, like we stay aligned in like our level of spirituality and being connected to God and being connected to understanding that I cannot control other people's behavior. So I always say like dramatically, I'm gonna leave this country, but I'm really not, because a part of me is like, this is our country. Do you know what I mean? So like, regardless, no matter where you live as a Black American, I got to ask, do they even like Black people where I'm going? You know what I mean? And that includes Africa. If we're keeping it real, having a real conversation, like where am I going that's going to accept me as an African American? And then what am I, so I get free healthcare, but everybody hates me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, yeah, but let me ask some Black people what their experiences in Canada, because it could be your experience could be different. You know what I mean? So like, that's the thing. Like, even for my husband, like, when we think about these things, it doesn't really include where he's going to feel safe. It's where me and my children are going to feel safe. And I don't think I'm going to be really any safer anywhere else than I am here. You know, like we've always had presidents that were not loving of the Black community. This is not a new thing. I think people feel very polarized because we have access to the internet and you see it more often. But y'all, we live in America where they were hanging Black people from trees. Like this is nothing new. You know what I mean? So I feel like you definitely need to, my thought is for people to really find a space of peace. Like what centers you, whether it's your religion, whether it's meditation, working out, create that peace within your home, instill that into your children, because it has always been very real to me that being a Black American is not a safe existence in this world. Right. And I've always had joy and peace knowing that. So I don't know. I think having access to it is what triggers me. And so I've been trying to like not watch certain things, stay off my phone, because seeing it too much every day.
Girl, you watch everything.
I know.
I know, because I be seeing it in your stories because you be reposting.
I know. I do. And I read a lot. And sometimes like being smart is not great.
Right. Yeah.
It's not, because it can make you more stressed out.
Well, I would also argue too that there's a lot of information. There's a lot of misinformation. And I think I'm using that right, because there's misinformation and disinformation. And I think
what's the difference?
Disinformation is created to deceive, whereas misinformation is just wrong information that continuously gets shared. And so they're slightly different. Both matter. Yeah. But like what we have access to is not just like information that sucks, but we have access to a lot of misinformation that is harmful, and then disinformation designed to harm. Yeah. And so I feel like part of it is just, you know, seeing all of that, trying to decipher it, is overwhelming. Yes. And so I think part of this conversation was motivated for me. And like I said, it's more than just politics. It's all the things as parents that we ingest and we try to control and take care of for our families. But it's like, how much am I parenting from a place of fear versus maybe control is a different word. Like, you don't have to talk about it, but like even the idea of getting a gun, how much of it is because I'm afraid what happens if I don't versus, and it's personal, it's a mindset versus like, because I know what can happen and I want to be prepared. You know, it's just a different switch.
I definitely say for me, it's a mixture, right?
Yeah.
There was a reality when I was sitting in our house. We have a lot of windows in our house. That was one of the things that made me not want to buy our house. There's too many access points. And I was like, there's too many doors, there's too many windows up in here.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there one day and I was like, what if somebody just rolled up in my house?
Yeah.
Like beyond, let's say the political climate is great. Everyone's getting along, kumbaya, we're holding hands. That's just, people are still going to live in different socioeconomic, and that's usually what causes violence. It's not, you don't have money, you don't, so now you're robbing or doing whatever, right? Because people aren't inherently bad, like for the most part, you know? So whatever your circumstances are can drive you this way. So if someone runs up in my house, how am I going to defend my family? And a lot of people are like, well, someone comes in a gun, are you going to be able to get to your gun first before they come shooting? There's like a saying we used to say in the hood, if people come during the day, they're coming to rob you. If they come at night, they're coming to kill you. And that's just like a horrible thing, but that's just usually what happens. It's like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? So for me, I was like, well, I'm from Ohio, and in Ohio, a lot of people teach their children gun safety and how to use guns. And so I was like, me and Chia talked about this. Like, we might have to teach our teenager how to operate a gun safely and take her to classes and have the knowledge, and she knows where it is. And like, the thing is that you see these horrible things that happen to children that have guns in their homes, right? Yeah. And they accidentally shoot each other and play with them. A lot of that to me, and I've been trying to do my research, is people not educating their children. Sure. So it's a mystery. Yeah. They don't know the guns in their house. Then they find it, then they play with it. But if I'm telling my children these can kill people and they understand the severity of that, it's no different than them watching violence on TV or doing video games that play shoot. Like, it's all the same thing. So if you think it's a game, you think it's a game in their mind, which is why I don't usually let my kids play games where they're shooting people, because I'm like, that's not funny. Like, people really die. They don't come back to life. Yeah. There's no whoop. Another life. Like, that doesn't happen.
Right. I don't do that.
But it definitely was a little fear, and more so like, I have 4 girls. I want to be able to protect myself. Now, I'm not like my friends in Ohio who walk around with their guns in their Louis bags. It's not like that for me, but I don't know if I lived there, I might, because they live in a state where everybody's walking around with their guns. Yeah. So then you feel like, I got to have one too.
Right.
So
and they eating cats and dogs in Ohio.
Not them eating cats and dogs.
They are not eating cats and dogs in Ohio.
I would also like to just acknowledge that America's literally one of the only countries in the world where we have this conversation.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Girl.
Like, no one else is thinking about this.
That's when I think about moving to Australia.
Yeah, because I sit there and I'm hearing what you're saying, and it's like, oh, I got to carry a gun because everybody is walking around in their Louis bag, or like, what if somebody comes in my house and they're coming in? Like, these are things that other countries are not even thinking about, because guns are not regulated at all. Yeah. You're not supposed to have them. No one has them. We're not living in fear of them. And that is a reality already alone that we live in this country under stress, that we're not even acknowledging. Like, there is another way to live.
Yeah.
I agree. And for clarity, I am 1,000% with us not having guns. Like, that is my stance at all times. I don't think that everyday people should have guns. I shouldn't have a gun. I shouldn't need a gun, because if nobody had a gun, nobody would have a gun.
Right.
Right. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so it sucks.
It really does suck, because just that narrative running in our minds subconsciously is just constantly having us live in defense. Like, we have to think about how we advocate for ourselves, or stand up to somebody on the street who disrespects us, or, tries to harm us. You get too out of line, that person could just turn on, shoot you, because I got a right to carry.
Right.
And it's like,
it's
you
so
can't
true.
even communicate. People are unhinged. They want to use a reason to use their guns. They want a reason to flex their authority, or their I got it and you don't got it. Like, all that right there, especially based in a society where we do have a lot of conversation about the inequalities of race, socioeconomic class, all these things, people not having access to proper health care, mental health care. And you got people out here allowed to carry guns.
Girl,
this is a recipe for disaster.
No, 100%.
Truly.
So that's there's so many things that need to be remedied in order to make sense for us to really be living in a state of, like, regulated nervous system.
Yeah.
Girl, that's why I never bought a gun. I was like, I am way too angry. Do you know how many people I would have shot?
Oh,
Road
God,
rage?
Ashley.
Well,
No,
but
I
now
really-
you have one, and you're
No, but people need to
trained.
be
And you're
honest
trained
about
and-
themselves. Yes, but I
and
keep it locked up and I keep my ass in
But I keep
therapy.
that thing on me.
No, I don't keep it on me. I don't know.
I'm like,
No,
whoa.
no.
I would say for myself and, you know, parenting in these times, of course, fears naturally come up.
Yeah.
But goes back to that prayer bag, you guys. Like, it really goes back to just trusting that whatever is supposed to happen is going to happen, but obviously still being aware and still, you know, taking the measures that you need to be safe. Like, don't be out here like everything's gonna, like, come on, that wasn't smart.
Yeah.
You know, but yesterday Peace was worried about something. She was crying and she said, "Mommy, if I keep on thinking about something, does that mean that it's gonna happen?" And I told her, I said, "Well, sometimes that can happen." I said, "But I believe in allowing the thought to come up and then praying about it, right? And letting it go and understanding that at the end of the day, God is in control. So whether, you know, something happens, I just don't believe that, I don't know. I don't believe that, like, let's say, for instance, something devastating happens, right? And it's our time and we go. I feel like it is written that that's how it's supposed to
Really?
be. Yeah, I really believe.
Even though humans have free will?
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that if it's your time, yeah, then I feel like it's your time. Yeah, I feel
Really?
like 100,000%.
How did, okay, sorry, we are
I'm surprised that you feel. I feel like you've.
I live in the gray. I used to believe that everything that was supposed to happen would happen, but then it's like, you know, as I read more and I'm like, but we have free will. So I feel like there's like three portals. There's like what God intended, but then He gave us free will. So I always feel like this is really what I believe. I feel like we all have a purpose, right? We were all destined to be whatever it is, but because we have free will, that people don't always live within that destiny, right? Like for me with my sister, sometimes I can say, was she supposed to die? But then when I look at some of the decisions that she made, right, prior to what got her to her death, I'm like, well, she had an option, you know what I mean, before certain decisions were made, and these are the options she chose. So that's what happened when she chose those options. What her life had been had she had chose these other options. And I'm saying, like, some people were like, well, that was destined. I'm like, maybe not, because she had free will, and God gave us the free will to make our own choices. So we can stray or we can, you know what I mean? And I feel like there's little things that happen that lead you to believe like, okay, I'm on the right path. And sometimes stuff is like this, because for me, if I say it's meant to be, then that would be like telling people that live in third world countries that are living in war and that are starving, that was meant to be. No, the conditions that they live in are from man and from people and the choices that they made that now have catapulted or domino effect to other people and how they're living and their conditions and the environment and the planet. And I just don't believe that God wants that. I don't think that He wants people living in sadness and war and poverty. Those are things that happen because of man, not God. So I don't know. It's hard for me to, do you know what I'm saying? I battle with like, is this meant to be kind of thing.
Yeah. Wait, you're saying like if somebody passes?
Yeah, because if you say, like, if somebody dies, it was meant to be, right? Well, there could be someone starving to death in another country and then they die and you're like, well, that's meant to be. Like, no, it wasn't. They didn't have no food. And why didn't they have any food? Because their government is corrupt and they didn't have access to it. Do you see what I'm saying?
I agree with absolutely everything you're saying, meaning like both sides. And it kind of like, if I think about it too long,
you're going to be
like,
in a...
right. So
out.
I'm fully with you. And I think if I go down the path of like, we're exploring, right? Because I don't have an answer.
Right.
I think about how we
at the end of the
all
day
are individuals that are so small in the grand scheme of LA and the US and the continent and the world and the galaxy. Because my kids love space. And in time, right? And so in the examples that you said about, you know, this person died because they were starving, because they didn't have food, because the government means ultimately that person or that community that's starving, that dies, maybe served a purpose that was greater. The greater purpose being changing the government, changing the decisions of man long term. Like, this is not me advocating for this. This is just thinking about us as small parts of this
Yeah.
this whole system.
Or maybe they like birthed the person, or like you know,
people
I feel
gotta
like,
go. They gotta go at some point.
And that's also why I think that I don't.
No, you want to be 507 years old?
Absolutely.
But I feel like that's also why, like with the earthquakes and stuff, I don't allow it to like stress me out, because I think if this is how I'm supposed to go, and this, mind you, there's nothing we can do about a damn earthquake, right?
Yeah.
We can't go and stop it. We can't do anything. So my thing is, if this is what it is, I remember there was one that was so big, you guys, and I was reading my Bible and I was like, oh my God, Jesus is coming back. I said, the rapture is happening.
Not the rapture, girl. The rapture done happened 500 times already. We done been back, came back, was like, psych, I'll be back again. Y'all still ain't learned.
Gotcha. Get your life together.
Yeah, that
Quit
part.
sinning.
I mean, if he was a Capricorn, he was probably like, you ain't ready yet, bye.
I'm gonna give y'all one more time, okay? But yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like,
but
what's gonna be is gonna be.
The reality is you can't change the earthquake. You can't make it not come. But you can be like, you know what? I'm gonna live in New Jersey because I'm not trying to be there.
Wait,
when
what
that
you mean?
happens.
Because they don't have
They
earthquakes
don't,
in New
like,
Jersey.
you know what I'm saying? You could live farther away from where that is a reality.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
because
And
like
so-
these people are gonna go.
Yeah, the same way
Yeah.
it's like, am I going to leave the country if somebody gets elected, or am
Oh,
I
I
going to
see
leave? You
what
know,
you're
it's
saying,
like
yeah.
these are
Yeah.
decisions. These are practical decisions that people make for
how you said that,
themselves and
free
for their
will.
families. And like literally, just recently, somebody said to me that their uncle was like an earthquake expert. He, you know, whatever, meteorologist,
job to
whatever.
have.
And she was like, and he moved to New Jersey, and I was like, huh,
Oh, did they live in LA?
yeah. And I was like, oh no, for real.
So
though?
we need to be going to New
He just-
Jersey?
He just said this not. I'm not going to be here for this.
I mean, they do say that California is going to break off.
Yeah,
They say
I've
that
heard
all the
that for a
time.
long
We're just going
time.
to float into the ocean.
And it's gonna be underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to
I've been
extend
saying
off,
that
I
since
think
I
where
was in
we-
high school, and it's still above
God.
water.
For now.
I think to extend where we first started off, which was how do you deal with that with your kids?
Yeah.
And as real as we can keep it here about how we truly feel about it, I'm very careful with my children.
Really?
Yes.
Yes, but I also do my best to not exaggerate their fears, like by pouring fuel on a fire. My son, like Cameron, is a very, very sensitive child. He's very aware of things. Like we were traveling back from Mexico, and there was a huge rainstorm, and they were making us board the plane. And Cameron's been on hundreds of flights. He's never, ever, ever questioned whether he should get on a plane or not. So the reality of something could happen to this plane if we go up and there's lightning, he's very aware of the dangers of the world. That's why we call him Cautious Cam.
Wait, does that scare you if your child has a fear? Like, that would have made me not get on that plane if he said
So
that.
Yeah, same.
Because I have definitely heeded a lot of Cameron's thoughts. I listen to him, and when he says certain things, this is my very intuitive baby. He's very tapped in, and I know that, and that's actually something that we're very bonded through. So I do take the things that he says, but I also said, he really didn't want to get on the plane. And I said to him, I said, babe, I said, Daddy and Mommy fly all the time. I said, I have flown through many storms. I said, if it is not safe for us to take off, we will not take off. And sure enough, we sat on that runway for over an hour, and the skies cleared up because in Mexico, the rain goes like this. And we flew, and he was like, oh, okay. And he kind of overcame it. But again, the earthquake happened. He cried. Like, he was like, we got to run outside. We got to get under a table. Like, he was really, but he's doing these drills at school.
Yeah.
And these things. So Cameron is very connected into that space. But I always do. I say prayers with them at the end of the night. I express gratitude to them. I try to reassure them that we live. This is a perfect example. Okay. The other day, and I wanted to ask you guys this question. The other day, Jared and I got into a little bit of an argument. And it was over the way that we keep it real with our kids. So I try to keep it real. What Cameron's asking me about sex, babies, periods. I'm keeping it all the way real. Jared's like, I don't know what to say. We went on a bike ride, and we rode to the park. And when we were leaving, it was getting dark. And we got back to our bikes, and the tires on Cameron's bike and Jared's bike, the tires were popped. My bike was okay, but their bike wasn't, and Kaya's riding on the back of Jared's
What a
bike.
hater.
Right? No, so wait, so watch. So now Jared goes, well, he's like, okay, well, like, what are we gonna do? I was like, okay, well, maybe one of us goes home, we get the truck, come back, get the kids, we'll figure out the bikes after. And he's just like, did someone slash our tires? And I'm like, no one slashed our tires. We just rode through a path full of twigs and branches, and I could see these like little spore things.
I was thinking
I
that
definitely
too.
thought somebody slashed.
Yeah, me too.
No, but so this was the thing. Sorry, I should have given that context, right? But my thing was, my brain immediately didn't go to somebody slashed our tires. I was like, we're at the park.
Yeah.
No one slashed our tires. We're the only family with another little family that we were playing with. No one was around our bikes. They were within our reach the whole time. It didn't even cross my mind that somebody could have slashed our tires.
Okay, Chia.
But it didn't, because I was just like, that's not.
I knew the circumstances.
Yeah, I knew the
what it was.
circumstances.
Yeah.
But what he did in that moment was, we kind of got into it like right there, but didn't really get into it. And I tried to tell him, I was like, Cameron is a hypersensitive kid.
Oh.
It's getting dark. We're gonna have to walk home. He's already nervous. Why would you make him think that somebody would deliberately try to hurt and hinder us? Because now Jared's going into. Somebody's trying to stop us from getting home so they could rob our house. Like,
gosh.
Oh, he went deep.
But he's from New
that?
York.
No, he didn't say all of this.
Yeah.
But I knew him. I knew this is what he was thinking. And I paused and we got home and we talked about it after. And I was like, listen, I understand what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. I understand that you are trying to create a reality that does not allow your child to feel naive to what things could happen. However, we have made specific decisions. We have made specific decisions to live in a neighborhood that we feel is safe, where we feel safe, where we feel like we're around our neighbors. And I was like, that's actually the privilege that we've chosen for our lives, for our children.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want our children to be living in a heightened state of, I could get robbed, somebody could do, like, that's not why we live where we live. We know that's a reality, but
People get robbed in nice neighborhoods now.
Of course they do. I'm not saying that that's it, but
Okay.
that's not something that has absolutely faced us in the reality of where we are.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Just the reality. When you live in the city, and as you know, like we talked about things,
I
you're just
know.
aware of certain things. So to me, he said, "Oh, maybe it was a little harsh. I don't know. Maybe he's too young for it." And I was like, I know the place that you're coming from your reality as a black man in this world, as the things that you've encountered as a protector. But he's 8.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to find him sooner than it needs to.
Was that intentional though for Jared?
It was intentional because when I tried to deflect him from saying it, he doubled down on it, and that's actually why we got into it. Because I was like, I respect that you're trying to prove a point, but maybe and he even said it. He's like, maybe that wasn't the way I should have done it. I was like, yeah, like you can have a conversation about the realities of the dangers of the world, but I was like, if you say that to your son when we're there, he now may feel I'm not even safe with my parents.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Cody has
But I
thoughts.
want him to feel safe with us.
I do. I have a
You know?
thought.
Yeah.
Or I have a story that made me think of. And then I have like another story because I know we have a listener letter in a minute. But
Come on, stories.
I know. So I'm like, how much time we got?
My story.
And then I got another
no,
story.
I'm happy to
about
like
that story.
listen. Tell me to cut it off. I'll cut it off. But that made me think of something about when you said he's 8.
Yeah.
And Brooks is 7, almost 8. And so in my mind, he's been 8 like all year, right? And so it made me think about, oh man, I think it was earlier this year. He was in soccer camp. So spring break or summer, but we always put him in the same soccer camp. And I remember him coming home and being like, oh, this kid was like being mean to me. And he kept calling me something, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. Did I tell you this?
Yes.
I'm getting emotional now thinking about it because I had said that the conversation that I felt I needed to have, I would have when he turns 8. So as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, we almost there. And so I don't remember if I told the story in private or on the show, but in my mind, immediately I went to, this boy called my child a nigga.
Right.
And Brooks didn't remember what the word was,
Right.
but also Brooks has never heard the word. So he wouldn't, know what it means, know that it's bad, or even necessarily remember it and recognize it. And so I definitely was like, I'm going to have to teach him the word. Like he's at an age, he's in 3rd grade, same as I was when I was called that at school. He needs to know because I don't want anyone to ever say that and him be like, nah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to proactively say, this is what's up. And I did have that conversation with Tommy. And at the time he was like, it's not time, which is why I'm like 8.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am riveted by you guys.
Why?
What do you mean?
What is your perspective?
Let Felicia talk. I'll be riveted at the end. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm like, read us all at the same time.
So I was like, she probably gonna make me riveted as well. Go ahead.
So I feel like I had to learn to filter a little bit.
Right.
I wasn't really doing that much well, I was, but then I wasn't. So something happened where the kids they were just being ungrateful. Like, I think it was something about like a toy or food, like just being ungrateful. And I was explaining to them about the like what's going on in Gaza. And obviously having somewhat of a filter, and I was like, there's, people that are like losing their homes and like all their toys are gone, they're literally being blown up. And they went back and told their dad, and their dad was like, I just think there's some things that they shouldn't be, like they shouldn't know. I feel like there's such a fine line, because like you said, I want them to understand and not just be like, oh, everything is, like,
right.
I don't know how to describe it, but then at the same time, I also still want to protect them. So I feel like I always have to kind of find that sweet spot of like, okay, this is something that I should
I think it's how the message is delivered. And I think you have to know your kid's capacity.
Yeah.
Like, you got to know. Like, you can't speak to your kid. Like, some kids need to be spoken to a certain way.
Yeah.
Some kids need to be spoken to another way. In that moment, I didn't think that it was the right approach to instill a fearful, like, I already saw Cameron, like, I know my son. So when I looked at him and he was already like, wait, it's dark and our bikes are, like, he was already going into panic mode. That was me saying, I'm not going to pour into my child's fears right now. Like, you're safe, you're with your parents, everything is fine.
I just find it fascinating though that we have to do that with another person who has a different perspective.
But then,
on,
but like I
what
said,
they need to know.
But like I said, I also recognized, and that's what I said to Jared. I was like, I recognize that as a man and as a protector, you felt the need to give your son a dose of reality. Yeah. Don't be so naive out here. That's ... I personally didn't agree with the way that he did it, just because I was like, there is a time and place, And then we went home, and then of course Jared gets the bikes home, and then realizes that the tires are all full of the spores, and that's what actually punctured the things.
It wasn't the secret thief ninjas.
No, exactly. You know what I mean? With our security system in our house, and like with our
taking
cameras,
your jewelry.
You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, I understand it's a teachable moment, but was that the moment to teach it? And I was actually even shocked that Jared went to that place. And then this was the craziest part. I told this story to my parents, and the first place my dad went to was like, somebody tried to rob you? Right away.
Girl, so did the rest of us on this couch.
We all did.
But it made me, but I'll be honest with you, and maybe that's just my perception of life. Like, I don't go. I'm very aware. I'm a very aware person about what's going on, but I don't go to the worst case scenario. I don't. That's not the place that I go to. It's not how my mind works. It's like some people be like, I don't trust nobody until I trust them. I'm like, no, like, I'm going in easy. If you give me a reason not to trust you, I don't trust you, period. That's how I feel. I go with my intuition. I go with my gut. I go with my instincts of knowing people and how to read and be a good judge of character. That's what I use. I don't immediately go into everything and everyone is unsafe, or else you would just stay in the house. So
that's not necessarily true. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say that everyone is different, right? How they process information.
Or how they were raised too.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Because it's the whole time you guys were talking, I was like, this sound like when white people were like, I don't think we need to do race theory. My kids are too young. And I'm like, well, black kids are not too young to deal with the realities of being black. So like, that's literally their argument. So it's just funny because I find a lot of times that there's so much middle ground with with black parenting and white parenting and the things that they fear and try to protect their children from, right? And there's a lot of similarities, and sometimes it lends us to be more understanding as to why people aren't understanding of us. And that's literally the first thing I was thinking about, because that's the argument that every parent has. Well, why do our kids have to learn about slavery? They're so young. And I'm like, well, they were children slaves. But okay. So that's my thing. I feel like that age doesn't eliminate people from experiencing any of these things. And so I'm not saying you got to go in hot with your 2-year-old, like you could die today and rape and murder and blah, blah, blah. But I do feel like it has allowed me to enjoy life more by being more realistic and understanding about things, right? So if I am going out to the club with my friends and I'm wearing something, I'm more like I feel safer knowing what could happen to me because I make better decisions. It doesn't stop me from going out. It doesn't stop me. I got kidnapped and carjacked in broad daylight, and I still went to work the next day. Do you know what I mean? Like things have happened to me that could make someone. I just feel like I feel more prepared and understanding that shit's gonna happen, right? But like, even with my kids, with Amira, now that she's a teenager, she wants to go walking with her friends. I'm like, she's like, that's so dramatic, Mom. And I'm like, well, somebody could roll up, put you in their car. She was like, it's actually not dramatic. There's tons of children that are missing. It's very real. Yeah. So if you know that, then when you go on a walk, you're going to make smarter decisions. I don't want you just skipping down the street like, life is great. No, it's not.
I think that I think that we all agree with your sentiment.
Absolutely.
I just think that the delicate part of parenthood is sort of deciding what to say to the 2-year-old about slavery versus the 4-year-old versus the 8-year-old. I'm just using that as an example because you did, but I'm going to describe it. I'm going to say it differently. I'm not going to necessarily sugarcoat, but I think the emotional and realistic place that we're in is like finding these scenarios where we're like, ooh, okay, how am I?
Finding a way to package it.
Yeah. And then doing it with another person.
And let's be
clear. Who wants to do it differently.
If I go back to the tires situation, when you show your child, oh, look, it was the thing, but let's be clear.
Yeah.
You always still have to be aware of your surroundings. Yeah. And that's kind of how you bring it back to kind of being aware that everything is not always great. But it was interesting because you said it. I was shocked that Jared took that position. Jared didn't grow up in high stress crime situations. He did not grow up that way. So for me, and Jared is also, between the two of us, I'm the worrywart. I'm the one that's always thinking about what could go wrong in the protection of my kids. So I'm always thinking about like, oh, well, you know, if they could do that could, like, I'm always thinking in that space, even if I don't express it outwardly. But he took on that position that day, and I was really shocked.
That's interesting.
Okay, so wait, hold on. I gotta read this letter. Question. Sorry. No, we can talk about this specific subject forever, but let me get this question off. Okay, it says, my daughter is starting to show interest in boys. I'm nervous because she looks older than what she is, but her behavior is still very much like a 13-year-old. She asked for play dates, which I've said no, but I caught her trying to plan an outing, at the park with her little friends, which included boys. She started her cycle, and I hate that I didn't use that opportunity to talk about sex the way I should have. It's time, but I let my own fears stand in the way of being candid with my baby, partially because I remembered how wild I was. Ooh. Help.
Go ahead, Ash.
No, you guys go first.
No,
but y'all
got it. Yeah, but you also were teenagers. I read the question. I'm not answering first. I said what I said.
I mean, it sounds to me, the thing that stands out the most to me is her saying she did not use the opportunity to talk about sex when she thinks she should have and how she thinks she should have. And so now's the time to say, hey, little girl.
No, little girl.
With your little friends.
Right.
Your
like,
little friends.
I effed up. I skipped this moment in our parenting child journey, and this is what I need you to know. But in whatever communication is like comfortable for them, but like she got to just go back to that moment and say, I left this out.
Yeah.
Look, if something like,
not when the eyebrows get like this. When the eyebrows get like this,
she was stressed out.
She said I didn't use the opportunity. What? I'm gonna use the opportunity right now.
Right, exactly.
The opportunity has never been missed.
It never. I'm like, no. At 13, I wasn't having sex, so I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
But she's also saying her daughter looks older, so she may not be having sex, but other people are gonna look at her ready for it.
Well, then that's a different conversation. I think the same thing I tell Amira. I'm like, when you wear specific things, it makes you look older. So if you look older men are going to speak to you, and you are not ready to deal with that. So that is number one, the conversation I have with her, like trying to have body positivity and be inclusive, and like, you're a woman, you can wear what you want to wear, but also these things bring this attention. Are you ready for that attention? No, you're not. Put on a longer shirt. So that is like one thing, but I've already talked to my daughter about sex. And I talked to them all really about sex. So, and reproduction and all of these things. So for me, I feel like she just needs to have the conversation with her daughter. And then
and let it be uncomfortable.
Yeah, but also don't make it weird. So like, we can sometimes make things weird for our kids and put stuff in their head that they're not even thinking about out of our own fears. Like, if she just want to hang out with her friends, let her hang out with a group of friends and you go. Why does it have to be a no? Like, okay.
Oh, I was going to say too, remember we were talking about like, you host the play date.
Yes.
So you can kind of see what's going on. Yeah. I think also sometimes, as adults, we project this like, oh, my child, let's say for instance, it's a daughter, like my daughter likes this boy. But I think teaching the children that you can be attracted to somebody's energy and their friendship. It doesn't always have to be romantic. It doesn't always have to be sexual. And I think it's important to teach them how to even exist with male energy or female energy.
Yeah, navigating that,
like the opposite sex. Like you said, it doesn't always have to be weird. We teach peace that all the time. We're like, okay, do you really like this person, or do you just like this person's like personality and they're your friend?
But even that nuance, right? You said earlier a minute ago about like doesn't necessarily mean it's romantic interest. Like how and when do you introduce like romantic?
Girl, that's been introduced to them since they were children. They watch every character on TV kiss and be in love and date and marry. So that has indoctrinated in all of our children's brains. If you let your kids watch TV, it's too late. They're introduced to romance in cartoons. So that's already like kissing, get married. Oh, I'm in love. You're my friend. So for me, with Amira, I'm always like, listen, do you like him? Because I ask her, I'm like, when you meet a girl, and because we've had the conversation, are you attracted to women, like that type of thing, right?
Wait, can I ask you really quickly? Yeah. Does Amira come up to you and ask these questions, or are you just kind of like, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation?
Well, we have a very open relationship, so she asks and talks to me about everything.
I think is that too. I think that the overarching thing is like creating a safe environment for your child to be like, hey, Peace would be like, Mom, I kind of have a crush. Yeah. But again, if she feels comfortable enough. So sorry,
but you're right. That's actually good, because if it's not too late, you can also create that relationship as well. It's never too late. You know what I mean? By, like you said, having the conversation.
It's a way to finesse it too. Like,
girl.
No.
Right. Who's that? No, but I've always told Amira, I'm like, when you meet a girl and you like hanging out with her and like just want to kick it, you don't think I want to be in a relationship with her. She's like, no. I said, well, it could be the same thing with boys. Like, just because you like hanging out with him doesn't mean that you want to kiss him in the mouth.
Dang, that's
so
crazy.
Just kick it. Yeah. Just have friends. Like, and see where it goes. Like, everything doesn't have to be that deep. Like, if you think a boy is cute, I'm like, get to know him as a friend. You want to play video games, whatever it is that you like doing, like do that with them and then see where it goes. I'm always just telling her to like, just slow things down. Cause everything you liked last year, you don't even like that no more. Yeah. And that's the same thing's gonna happen with people, boys, girls, whatever, friends that you don't even talk to no more. Yeah. Just let it ride out.
Yeah. Yeah. I try not to give like some of the questions where you're like, oh damn. I try not to give like too much of a reaction so that Peace in.
That poker face got to be real.
Yeah. Peace had asked me a question. She was just being curious, but in my mind, I'm like, girl, what? But she was like, Mom, how do I know if I like girls or not? And I was like, well, what do you mean? She was like, like some girls, like they date one another, and she brought up my sister. And I told her, I was like, well, when you hang out with the girl, like, do you like girls? And she was like, I mean, like as friends. And I told her, I was like, well, Mommy believes that sometimes people they're just born like that. You're born with being attracted to the opposite sex, and that's okay. And so I was like, well, like, do you think that you would be like in love with a girl? Would you want to kiss a girl? And she was just like, no. I'm like, your reaction is literally telling me and telling yourself how you actually feel. Yeah. But again, it was something that she was seeing.
Right, but that can change.
That can change.
And it was something that she was seeing, like, oh, well, I see my aunt do it, and I see, different people do it. But again, and even telling her, if that is to change, we're still going to love you no matter what it is. But
they don't know. I mean, well, let me not say that. Let me not say that, because there are children that are very clear on who they are and how they identify at a very young age. Yeah. So I don't want to just like say they don't know. But I would say in general, a lot of children are just trying to figure things out and they're mirroring what they see, and they kind of have to go through life experiences. There's some people who don't realize what their, identity is until they're grown. And then life, because you have to take into factor all sorts of things, how you were raised, if you feel comfortable, what was introduced to you, what was indoctrinating you through religion, through everything. So that self-discovery of who you are is a continuum, you know? Yeah. And so that's why I always tell my daughter too, I'm like, girl, just exist today.
I know lots of women. I know lots of women who were married, had full families and children, divorced, and now married to women.
Yeah. And vice versa for the men.
Exactly.
For the men's.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But I don't really have much else to add other than other than the fact that it's like, word, make boys or girls, whoever it is, make them your homies. Yeah. Like I grew up with the older brother, and like I just knew how to be around boys, and like I did not get boy crazy. Sometimes there is like this attention that it's this newfound attention.
Of course.
And it's exciting and you want to explore what that is, but I think that's great advice. Like I think one, it's never too late to have a conversation with your kids. Like
Yeah.
it's your responsibility, it's your job.
Yep.
And then two is just like encourage your kids to find friendship first. You can't stop them from looking how they look. You can't stop them from people who are going to notice them. But you have to give them the tools to be able to respond.
I was hanging out with this guy. Can I say this? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. I was hanging out with this guy, just friendship, and he was a newer friend. And I was explaining to him how I have a lot of guy friends. I have a lot of guy friends. I have a lot of girlfriends. And he was just like, I don't believe in that. I'm like, well, that's your problem, not mine. But even just as grown adults, how people feel like, oh, you can't have friends that are the opposite sex. I'm like, but you learn so much from them. That's crazy. You know, like
my best friend is a guy.
Yeah, I'm like,
that's
what
dumb.
You mean?
Yeah.
You know, the argument that people make is that there's usually always this moment of attraction or a connection. There's usually like a history of physicality or like interest that initially started the friendship. And then it just didn't evolve or amount into it. That doesn't.
I'm like, I'm fine. I got charisma. Like, of course, you
I got the riz.
I'm attracted.
But what
to
I also believe, what I truly believe about when you're in a relationship or when you're an adult, you have friends of the opposite sex. If they're friends, y'all are just really over here. Every time I listen to the podcast, I'm always listening to the podcast. I was like, them two's always.
We gotta be separated.
We're
over
here
here
like
sit in between
the teacher. Okay, guys, that was the Mama's Dad. Be sure to stream.
Wait, I really have something that I want to say.
You gotta edit her out the whole episode. She gonna get us canceled.
But Tiffany, did you want to say something?
That's her.
Wait, Tiffany over there. Tiffany like, what the hell?
I definitely feel like the oldest person here today.
But I have to say this.
Say it, girl.
I have to say this because both Melanie and Ashley have said it's never too late to have a conversation with your kids, and it's bothering me. Here's why. So 2 things. 1, I agree with you.
Okay.
However, I do think that when we miss critical windows, your kids are having those conversations with someone else.
Yeah.
And so that kind of triggered me because I was like, you're right, sis, who asked the question, have that conversation with your child. But I read somewhere that if you have not talked to your child about sex by 9, somebody else has. Whether it's a classmate or whatever, doesn't have to be sinister, but somebody else has. And so that stuck with me. I actually read that fairly recently, but that stuck with me. And so absolutely have the conversation. It is your duty. It is your responsibility as a parent. But know that if you're not doing it when it scares you, right? If you're not doing it when, I don't know, you see any sign or any indication, or when you're, I don't know, reading the research, like your child is having that conversation with somebody else. So that'd be stressing me out.
Wait, I'm curious to know how your parents were with you guys when it came to communication and hard conversations. Because I have still never had a conversation about sex with my mom.
My mom definitely talked about sex. My mom is just a very forward person. It's like, look, this is what it is. She doesn't sugarcoat. She doesn't, since we were kids. But also, we grew up in the hood. So my mom, you know, really taught us the importance of, like, if you're walking down the street, look over your shoulder, like, make eye contact with people. Like, I don't want to say she instilled fear, but she really just prepared us to be able to handle any situation. So that's also why I think the way that I parent, and because I am so direct with the kids, I had to learn to, like, just pull back just a little bit, still tell them and make them aware, but some things, and then mind you, their father was like more sheltered. So finding that balance. But I mean, as a single mom, my mom's like, look, you got to look out for yourself. Like, it just is what it is, you know? So yeah, just very direct.
Same.
Very direct.
My mom, I remember being 5 when I asked my mom how babies are made. She's like, the man takes his penis and he puts it in the woman's vagina and sperm comes out and then fertilizes the egg and that's it. I mean, my mom worked in the medical field, so everything was very medical for her. She's like, it's science. That's how babies are made. Like, what are we asking here? You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, okay, and moved on. Yeah. So I'm like that with Amira and my kids too. They always sit at the table and go, mommy and daddy sitting in the tree, KISSING. And I'm like, yes, I do kiss him. That's my husband. Okay, right in the mouth with my tongue. Mind your business. Like, get out of my face. But I'm just the same way. Like, but I feel it's worked because I can always talk to my mom about anything to this day, like anything. And Amira, I know there's things that she'll maybe hold close to her chest because obviously I didn't tell my mom everything.
Yeah.
But she
Clearly, I'm just kidding.
but she feels close enough to talk to me, and all of my girls do. So my mom and my dad, actually, my dad talked to us about our periods too, and he would be like, "Don't be leaving your pads all over everywhere and wrap them up and throw them away, and don't nobody will see that blood."
Yes, please.
You better wrap
Least
it
you
up.
can do.
Yeah,
better wrap it up.
But my dad was just real. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. He still is like that to this day. I could ask him anything. I don't be one of his answers sometimes because they're very old school child and antiquated. And I'll be like, okay. But he will, and I feel comfortable and open to talk to my parents. And that's how I raise my kids.
Yeah, same. My dad is a real one.
Yeah.
Especially, sorry, I'm going off on but I feel like this is important that I address. Me and my dad's relationship has always been very upside down my whole life. And then I feel like it's when me and their father separated is when me and my dad got close. So now when I'm experiencing something, I can pick up the phone and call him, and I'm like, dang, that was some fire advice. Like, where you been? Yeah, anyways.
What about y'all girls over there?
I don't. My parents definitely talked to me about sex, or at least my mom did.
At what age?
I have no idea. Like, I just don't remember. It
Yeah.
happened, but I wouldn't say it was like in depth or continuous. It was like, here's where the birds and the bees.
Oh, okay.
Now you know.
I was already having sex by the time I said, girl, you too late.
Oh my God.
By the time my mom, I think I was like 16.
Don't tell that. You don't get to tell nobody your business. It's fine.
I mean,
I'm pretty
that's
sure you
normal.
have stated your age.
No, I
Man,
haven't.
I don't care.
Did I?
So I was
Yeah.
16 years old with everybody else. Well,
With everybody.
not everybody else. But how old were
Amira's
you when you started having
that
sex?
is, oh my God, I have a child
I
who
swear
may
you said this
listen to
already.
this.
Nevertheless,
I was 17.
Exactly. How did I know that? Because you've said it 1,000 times.
I think I told him. Yeah.
Nevertheless, I will say my parent, like, not that I don't think my parents did anything wrong. I was actually pretty conservative, but for
you wanna
better,
tell how old
for
you were when
better
you
or
had
for
sex, too?
worse. Probably 17, but I was a senior in high school.
Yeah.
But
That matters.
I mean, I'm just saying it wasn't
Like,
like.
it's like you were kind of like grown, but not grown.
Nevertheless,
You are not grown at
my
17.
point
That's too
is
young to be having
this.
sex.
I have been very. I learned before I
Americans.
had kids.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
grown
I'm
folks
sorry.
are talking. Grown folks are talking.
So when my sister had kids, which was like 10 years before me, I learned like how much things can happen to children who don't know about like sex and all that stuff. So I have been so serious about teaching my kids at a young age, even before I was pregnant, teaching my children at a young age, like where babies come from and all about sex. And so I have prepared myself with articles and books since before I had children.
A book about everything.
About.
No, I did not have an open line of communication with my parents at all. I had friends that fortunately were kind of responsible and taught me and learned about things. I had an older brother. I was more scared of getting caught doing
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
I wasn't supposed to be doing.
yeah.
And it was really for my brother. Nobody really gamed me up about what like the body was doing. My mom and I, to this day, there's this one. You know what though? When I look back on it as a kid, I wish my mom absolutely would have been more direct with me, because my mom is as direct as they come.
I was gonna
but when
say.
it came to the realities of life, I think her fear came from not wanting to plant a seed of something that she didn't think I knew about, but also ignorance. My mom is an immigrant. She grew up in the Caribbean and was married with a child at 19 years old. And if you talk to my mom, she will tell you, oh, I always knew I wanted to be married with a child at 19. I said, really, did you? Because the thought of that shit terrified me. And you didn't put that in my head, because if I went after you, I'd have been a teen mom. You know what I mean? Like, if I'd have thought it was going to work, it's great, it works out, I'd have been a teen mom. So it's like, the conversations are so important. I also didn't feel like I could go talk to my mom because I didn't feel like it was safe. I was going to get in trouble. The curiosity of thinking a certain way, like we just did not have that relationship. And my mom and I have a wonderful relationship, but that was absolutely a barrier for it. And then I recognize it's because also too, my mom didn't have the same experiences that I was having. Like, she didn't know what it was date multiple people.
Yeah.
She didn't go no school dances. She didn't know about prom king and queen. She doesn't know about any of that. So how was she going to talk to me about it? She just knew she got pregnant and was like, well, that's what you do. You get married, and here we are. Thank God we all made it. You know? So it's like, it's really different. So when I look back on it now, I would have appreciated a different experience, because I was a really curious kid and I did have a lot of questions, and I was also very mature. So I feel like I could have handled the reality of a conversation. But when I look back on it now, I'm just like, my mom, she just didn't know.
Yeah.
And she was indoctrinated by shame and judgment from how she was raised, where she was raised, and how she grew up. So, you know, that I think is what differs for us in the experience of how our moms are. My mom is not from North America.
Yeah.
It's just very different. And if you speak to like my Caribbean friends, the Caribbean moms, oh my gosh, it was just all based on fear and shame.
But you know what I do want to say that I have been realizing with all my friends that are immigrants, that the experience is actually universal. Whenever people like immigrant parents be like, blah, 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 like Black parents do the same thing. I think it's that generation. Because if you talk to my mom, she'll say the same thing. They didn't talk to us about sex. Everything was shame-based. You know, my mom grew up Catholic, you know, so it was definitely like a lot of like, you don't do that. That's shameful. There's a way women are supposed to be and act. She just decided to be different. That's all. And
my
it
mom
was
didn't
because
have TV.
Well, that is
like,
different.
That is different.
That is different.
Like, exposure to things is just completely, you know,
Yeah.
there's human nature, but
Yeah.
there's also exposure to entertainment. She didn't have that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, yeah.
Girl.
Well,
she
okay.
didn't have no TV.
We
No,
have-
I mean, no,
we have
because I was going to say
captured-
my mom didn't have a TV growing up. That's what I was thinking about. No, they didn't. They got it. She
Yeah.
was like, we got that TV like later in life. I'm trying to think of like times and year and like people having TVs anyway.
Keep thinking on that. We have covered
Oh my God.
earthquakes. We have
covered so
covered
much.
gun violence. We have covered sex. What else did we cover?
We have
Oh,
covered
no.
thieves.
Well, Melanie didn't tell us how old
Thieves.
she was.
17.
Ow,
17
look
girl.
at us. Wait,
Oh, we were 16.
and you. Okay, y'all. Well, you know, we love you. Watch us on YouTube, Black Love's YouTube page. Leave comments, like, review, share, and also do that on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts and all that stuff. And send us messages, DM us on Instagram at the Mamas In Podcast, and email us at podcasts
With an S.
at blacklove.com. Peace.
Bye.